the defense needs to do soul searching. They need to do ayahuasca in the desert because they're a problem. And letting the Bears back into that game, to me, it's like 90-10 on the defense. That was awful.
Yeah. Well, they actually stopped a decent Bears rushing attack to the point where the Bears threw the ball. And if you're a Vikings fan, you're saying, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted to do, make Justin Fields throw. Well, Justin Fields looked a little Kyler Murray-ish in the second half with his escapability, with some of those throws downfield. Darnell Mooney goes OBJ on the bit. Luke Inman, the defensive effort in the second half, it all kind of seems to end at the same point. They've given up 24, 24, 25, 22, but it always feels like they played worse than that. In the second half, once again, they bend, don't totally break, and that just seems to be who they are right now.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, one hand, you've got people saying, well, they haven't allowed more than 25 points in a single game yet this season. So that's something, but seems like you're reaching a little bit, right? Because they just, once again, look lackluster, a little underwhelming. Reggie and I in Superior Sports Talk have dubbed them Gumby defense, soft and bendy. 22 points against the Bears isn't great, but the more you dissect it looks actually worse. And I think it was
I love it.
Luke tweeted out yesterday, only 8 drives for the Bears. They scored on 5 of them. And they only stopped the Bears once, and that was in the second half. So I think the A topic, going into this week, Sam, is going to be, yes, Vikes are 4-1, top of the division. That's great. But they haven't won a game convincingly, and the defense just really feels like a major work in progress that I don't think a lot of people should be confident they can hold up against a playoff caliber team, much like that only real litmus test against Philly that we saw, and they just absolutely got dismantled. And we'll get into it, I'm sure, this week about Ed Donatel, the scheme, the play calls, the personnel, but I know we're all kind of griping on him, kind of cherry picking that 3rd and long, one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and you're dropping back guys like Danielle Hunter and Wanham and even Za'Darius Smith at times in coverage. Cole Kmet beats you for a big gain for a first down. So it's the little things that are frustrating. Good news is I still think it's correctable, but again, this is on Ed Donatel, and how quickly can he do that? I'm just not sure. Through 5 weeks, we just haven't seen much improvement at all.
Luke Braun, you've ranted about this on the postcast already, dropping Danielle Hunter in coverage, but I think the bigger issue here is the Danielle Hunter disappearance. And I said this 2 weeks ago. I said, hey, Arif, where's Danielle Hunter? I saw a missing poster for him. And Arif said, no, he was actually pretty good, and PFF supported that. Well, through 5 games now, he's got 10 pressures. He is 42 of 59 in pressures. I think he's 32nd overall because he's done some good stuff in the run game. His sack yesterday was DJ Wanham-esque. I'm not going to give him tremendous credit for it. I don't want to be too down on Danielle Hunter after 5 games, still a small sample size, but Ed Donatel failing, I think, to get the most out of Danielle, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, the stars that just felt big on the field. They took up a lot of space. They were rangy. They would get to the ball. That's not happening right now. And Luke, I'd be curious your thoughts just on this, the stars fading. Is it age or is it something else?
I'm not going to say age isn't Danielle Hunter 28? No, I thought Danielle Hunter played well against the Bears.
He did.
I thought he had a good game.
PFF hated it. PFF's not everything.
Danielle Hunter will turn 28 in about 19 days. Happy birthday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I thought he had a good game against the Bears. I was pretty happy with that. I thought he was productive enough in the run. I thought when he did pass rush, he was at least compressing the pocket or making the lane the way he was supposed to. But I think, this is a matter of usage, and I would love to see it. Maybe SIS has it or something. I haven't looked at it. How often Danielle Hunter is dropping into coverage, because 3rd and 10 and he's doing a hook zone. That's criminal. I will never get over that. I'm going to complain. I'm going to be so annoying about that. That's disgusting.
It's 7 coverage snaps this season. It's not that much.
Okay, then that was just a really bad time to bust that out. He just Donatel outthinking himself.
It's much more
times.
Yeah.
Criminal.
It's okay. It's more Za'Darius Smith, which I also disagree with. But
why is Za'Darius Smith getting pressure though, and Danielle Hunter's not? Is no one putting this on Danielle that Danielle might actually be struggling?
Well,
I don't know.
I will say
Not
just real
surprised
quick.
to look at the tape. We all have an answer. I would not be surprised to see the Bears treat it the same way the Saints treated it. The Saints gave him a lot of chips and a lot of attention. I wouldn't be surprised to see
I just want to throw this out there and see how you guys feel, because Donatell was asked this last week and he said, listen, this is normal for guys going from a 4-3 to a 3-4. And again, this is all he's ever known under Zimmer. The first month, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, this is normal. This is what it looks like. Somebody replied to that presser from the Vikings account and said, hey, I did some digging. Jason Taylor, when Miami went from a 3-4 to a 4-3, his first month, very similar. And then he still ended up with something like 14, 15 sacks. So I'm not comparing apples to apples, but I am saying this is what Donatell said. This is what it was supposed to look like. What do you guys think about that?
I think part of it's a 2-point stance too, right?
I think, there's a couple of nuances there. So first, I'll say, I actually do think Hunter has had 3 good games this year out of 5 against Green Bay, against the Saints, and the Detroit game where PFF backed me up. I actually don't think the Bears game was bad. I just don't think it was very good. And the expectation is that he's very good, right? And so that's kind of the context of the discussion we're having. I think that he is a much better player than a lot of players available, even given this level of performance. But I think the thing with the switch to the 3-4 to the 4-3, this is something that we underplayed when it came to Unique Ngakoue coming to the Vikings, switching from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and then having him stand up a little bit to be a little bit comfortable. It's something that I think it's easy to over or under discuss. I think it's very difficult to kind of get a good sense of how much it matters. And it'd be kind of interesting to kind of take a look at historically what that looks like. But there are 2 elements here. One, Luke identified in his thread, which was, the discussion about kind of what his responsibilities are on a particular play and having to read from his position from a 2-point stance, having his eyes up and what he needs to do with his eyes. And then for me, I think more importantly, it's which lead leg he's rushing with and how that changes his entire pass rush approach. One reason that Micah Parsons, for example, is such a good edge rusher is that he actually rushes with a different lead leg than most 4-3 defensive ends. And offensive tackles are really unused to how this changes the timing. And so he's been able to get pretty far upfield while offensive tackles are still trying to figure out kind of what he's going to do with his hands. Now, the inverse is kind of true for Hunter, whereas he's rushing up the field, the synchronicity between his hands and his legs and his footwork isn't quite there yet, and he needs to figure out what he wants to do as a pass rusher in order to be effective. Right now, you take a look at his explosion off the line, it's not quite what it usually is, and I think part of that is not his pure athleticism. In fact, I thought he looked all right from that perspective in camp, but rather how to integrate that into his overall pass rush approach. So I do think that this will be fixed, as we continue further down the season. I would like a more systematic review of what it looks like when edge rushers switch from a 3-4 to a 4-3, or rather a 3-point stance to a 2-point stance more often. But I do think that all of these play a role in the level of play we're seeing from it.
And one thing Danielle Hunter has always had throughout his whole career is the ability to learn new stuff. It's never instant, but he has taken on a lot of new stuff over his career. I think just not exploding off the line out of that 2-point stance is the only other thing, but it's kind of a confluence, I guess. Yeah. But it's also probably overplayed. I think calling it a disappearing act is unfair.
And maybe that's a harsh characterization by me. There's a lot of questions I would like to ask Mike Zimmer. One of them, a little ways down the list, is he always teased a couple things that Danielle Hunter could do better without really saying what they were. He said numerous occasions over the course of several years, if he did a couple things different, he could be really special. But he never really detailed what those were. I'd like to know what they were. I'd like to know what Mike Zimmer felt like Danielle Hunter struggled at, right? Because it's kind of hard to see with the naked eye.